Hi everyone, I hope you are all safe and well. Today I'm going to share with you my CNC enclosure build. This took me the last few months to finish. I've opted for a wooden build to save on the costs. So if you look on forums and Reddit, you see that most hobbyist CNCers, they build enclosures from either wood or aluminium extrusion. Now I was going to go with the latter, but after pricing up how much extrusion I would need and the cost of thicker 6mm polycarbonate panels that I would want to go all around the frame, I decided on a design using timber, plywood and thinner 3mm thick polycarbonate panels for the windows. As you can see, I used the CNC to do a lot of the cutting of the joints and things like that. Firstly, it gives me more practice using the machine, which is always a good thing. And also I lack woodworking tools for making these type of joints accurately. I opted for mortise and tenon joints and also three-way joints to build this initial timber frame. Now in hindsight, I think I probably could have saved myself a lot of time and aggro and maybe have just screwed this timber frame together. The wood that I picked, as you'll see, it's not really the best for this type of joints that I'm making. Now thankfully over April we had really good weather in the UK and it was perfect timing really, because I wouldn't have been able to have done all of the sanding and painting that I was doing outside in the garden indoors, and it probably would have delayed this project even more. That's something I didn't really consider when planning this build. You know, wood, yes, it is cheaper than aluminium extrusion, but it's much more time intensive in preparing and finishing. Especially if you want it to look nice. You know, if you want wood to look good and you want to sand it and you want to coat it, you know, you've got to do like 2 coats of primer. You've got to sand it in between that, and then you can apply the colour. As you can see, I'm using a blue paint here, for instance. That was another few coats. It takes a day between each coat to dry, so you can see how it really does add time onto this project. For the window frames, I'm just using a simple lap joint here. I've routed out the edge so the polycarbonate can sit inside it. And I fixed the polycarbonate to the wood with just some regular epoxy glue. And then I sealed all around it with some clear silicone sealant. I made these simple latches on the CNC to lock the side windows. And this wasn't in the original design, but as I'll explain shortly, I had to add this front panel to keep these front doors shut and sealed. Lastly, I just wanted to create a gasket. I just 3D printed a mould, put in some silicone rubber, and this just helps me to create a better seal on the top air hose that goes into the enclosure, because you can see I'm using magnets to fix it on. So you've just watched the build. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how I made it. As you can see, there was quite a few problems that I come across while making this. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned from all of this is to not buy cheap wood if you are doing anything that requires any sort of accuracy. I bought the cheapest plywood I could find, and I also bought the cheapest timber that I could find. Bearing in mind I was doing this all during coronavirus, which is still going on, and a lot of the DIY stores, they had all shut down, so there was only one place that actually did delivery. I don't have a car, so I can't just go and pick it up, and I can't go and pick the bits of wood, which would probably solve a lot of the problems. I just got it delivered. There's not really much I can do if a lot of it is bowed and warped. But before I cut them and they were in their full length, I picked the ones that I thought were the straightest, but as I've cut them into their shorter lengths here, it's just twist and bowed, and it's just created the frame essentially is kind of coming out this way a little bit, which meant that this door was kind of coming up this way. This top panel as well, you can see there's a big gap. So I've had to do a lot of hacking to try and make it all closed and as airtight as possible. And because I had problems with the timber, I've had to put this front panel on the front of the doors here, and it just operates on these two levers, which just help to keep it closed, which I actually quite like this idea. I was going to use magnets here and here just to snap it into place, but this kind of like lever lock actually keeps it really nice and tight, and it creates a nice seal around here because, as you can see, I've put a weather seal strip around pretty much everything, all around the top as well, and all along this part as well, because this does move up here. So you can see that I've actually got quite a lot of access. I need to put some sort of hook or something that will keep it up, but if I really do need to get back behind the CNC, or if I need to adjust anything on that side, I can lift this up and I don't hit my head. And I always hit my head on things because I'm quite tall. And when this was down, literally the first time I used it, I leant in and I smashed my head right on this. So I'm really glad that I did actually build this in this top hinge feature. Now, because I do use this CNC to cut larger panels, as you can see, I used the CNC to cut all of the joints for this wood that I used. I actually used more than the length of the CNC bed, quite a lot. So as you can see, I've added this door here, which will fold down. So if I ever do have a long piece that I need to cut, I can just bring this down. And then also this one opens up as well, so I can move this whole entire enclosure into the middle here, and I can open up both of these large doors, so I could cut a very, very long piece if I needed to. Now, overall, this was a lot of hard work. I was doing this all in the garden, and I don't have really much woodworking tools to make something like this, so I was finding it quite difficult. I'm not really that happy with how it turned out in terms of the quality and the look of it. When I was putting the frame together and I realised that all the frame had bowed and twisted and everything wasn't really kind of lining up as I wanted it to, I kind of gave up on that point to try and make it look nice. I really just wanted it finished and in this room so I could actually start to use it. Now that I've used it for about a week, I'm so happy that I did actually build it. Even though it doesn't look good, even though it doesn't work as I wanted it to, it's a million times better than it not being in an enclosure. You know, I had this sitting on this kitchen top here, and the mess it was causing in this utility room was ridiculous. It was throwing metal, it was throwing wood chips everywhere. If it's in an enclosure, it keeps all of the mess nice and contained, and also noise-wise, it does reduce the noise quite a lot. I can now be in this room while it's running, while it's cutting metal, while it's cutting wood. I don't even feel like I need ear defenders anymore. I always used to wear ear defenders. I do still wear ear defenders just purely because I want to protect my hearing as much as possible. But I can easily take them off. You know, my girlfriend can come in, I can have a conversation with her, and it can still be running, which is really nice. But let me just show you the difference in noise. So I've got the windows open here. I'm going to turn this on to 24,000. I've got a sound meter on my phone. It's currently at 70 decibel. And now let's close the windows. So hopefully you can hear the difference in noise just from this video recording. So now we're at 56, 58 decibel. So you can see that is quite a big reduction in noise. Another benefit to that as well is obviously with coronavirus now, all of my neighbours are at home, and this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to get it done, because it does cause a lot of noise, and having it in an enclosure really does help to reduce that, and obviously it's going to help to reduce how annoying it is to neighbours as well. So just a few little things that I've added. What we've got is I've just drilled a hole in this top corner here just to run the air hose into this, and also I've drilled a larger hole for the air hose. So what I've got here is I've just got a few magnets, and it just helps to keep the hose upright. So I can put it onto my dust chute on the actual CNC, or I can just vacuum up all of the mess using this. I really like this. It's very easy to take off. It's just quite a strong magnet, but you can see it just hooks up and done, it's out of the way. I've used magnets once more with the air hose that I've got connected to my dust cyclone and my vacuum cleaner. That is on a shelf up in the corner there. I've run the hose and I've cut just some hooks to hang up the hose onto the wall here. And I've used magnets into this top section so I can actually pull off this main hose, and then I can use this to vacuum up all of the floor as well. This is why I wanted to try and keep this as long as possible, because I do like to use this to stretch across all of my floor and clear it up. I don't like to use my vacuum cleaner because, you know, metal and wood, it's not really good for these kind of household vacuum cleaners, and the dust cyclone does a really good job of separating it. And I've just got this normal vacuum attachment with the magnet, so I can just hook this onto this, and now I can use, you know, just to kind of vacuum up stuff and get into all those corners and all those cracks on the CNC enclosure. So that's it with the build. Hopefully that gives you some sort of insight into kind of how I built it and perhaps how not to build it. Biggest advice here is just don't use cheap wood. I probably would have just used aluminium profiles. I think that would have been much easier. But this worked out pretty cheap. I mean, the wood was very cheap, and also the polycarbonate wasn't too bad. This was about £60 and it was all cut for me. And I've got quite a lot of polycarbonate. You know, I've got the big back window here, so I've got all of the natural light coming into the room, which I wanted because I do a lot of filming. It's nice to have natural light in here. I've got, you know, window at the top, windows on the sides, and these front windows as well. So if you've got any questions, feel free to ask, put it in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all later.